it's middle of December. We had the heater cranking in there, so it just reeks. We can't open the windows. So you see them open up the door, and they put on their gloves and they pull the door open, and the guy takes one step onto the RV and he stops and he turns around and he closes the door and he gives us the keys and goes, "You guys are free to go."
Hey, this is Party Like a Rockstar podcast, and I'm your host, Joel. Today's episode is brought to you by Misha's Kind Foods. They're an LA-based small business making the world's finest non-dairy cheese on the market today. They're lactose-free, paleo, keto, kosher, Parev, and 100% vegan. If you like what you see, check out the next video. If you like this video, please subscribe and like by clicking the little round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or our other guests on the show, go to joelrody.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle is Joel Rohde. If you haven't already read my book, Memoir of a Roadie, it's now available through Amazon and paperback Kindle or as an audiobook. I hope you enjoy the show. Steve Litscher is a tour manager and front house engineer for Stitch It Up. I screwed up your band name, Randy.
Close enough.
for Stitched Up Heart and Gemini Syndrome. Randy Mathias is my second guest, and he's the bass player and backing vocalist, or a backing vocalist, for the band Stitched Up Heart. We weren't able to get Mixie because she's very busy, so we ended up getting the fucking bass player.
Yeah, you had to settle for me.
Sorry,
We got a
guys. Fucking bass guy. So, yay!
She's probably busy with
It's
kids.
like, hey, I'll say something. Anybody want to hear what I got to say? Hello?
Your mic is on today, Randy. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. When I talk too much on stage, Steve will shut my mic off sometimes.
Have you really?
Wait, what did I say that one time?
Oh God, I don't even want to repeat this, but it was our last show in Los Angeles on the last tour, or second to last tour we did with Butcher Babies. And Randy always comes out on stage while we're playing the intro music, and he gets the crowd pumped up. He, waves his arms and, says something crazy on the mic. But LA is notoriously rough on bands that are from LA. The audience.
Well, I think they're just notoriously rough already. It just a lot of the fans are just like, all right, yeah, I played out last week. All right, let's see what you got.
Yeah, that's it. We're dickheads. Now, if you go to Detroit, if you're at Pine Knob, you don't even know how to play, and they'll be like, "You fucking rock!"
Yeah.
So Randy comes out on stage and he's like, "Come on, everybody, come on, LA, come on!" And he goes, "I want to see
Don't be so fucking pretentious.
Unfold your goddamn arms."
Nobody did though. They just stared at you.
No, they actually were a really good crowd. Yeah, they were a good crowd that night. Yeah.
Where were you guys playing?
1720 Club, downtown Los Angeles. It's in a very nice neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, downtown is spruced up a bit. It's not like it used to be.
Oh, no, I mean, if you around this club though, it's not the nicest place in Los Angeles. There's the day we played there, they were talking about a block away or on the corner or whatever, there was a tent that had exploded. It's one of those areas where it's just like Skid Row pretty much.
Yeah.
When we dropped our trailer door, we literally had to step over piles of human feces. Like it was, and I'm not exaggerating. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds like what is it? The San Francisco Warfield.
I haven't been there.
Warfield's a shit. It's awesome. But it's nasty.
Yes.
To be polite about it, I don't know.
Oh man,
we're gonna have Warfield people like stabbing it. They know it sucks too. Actually, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway. You're from LA, Randy, or
no? I'm from Miami originally, is where I'm from, but I've been in Los Angeles for a long time now. Yeah, I've been here for more than half my life, pretty much.
Oh, minute.
Yeah.
And you, Steve,
I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, but sort of lived all over the world. I was born in this area, lived in Australia, lived all over the United States, and then now I'm back in the land of cheese.
Yeah, why'd you pick Madison? It's not supposed to be a bad question, by the way. It's just
because they have the best festival on the planet, Taste of Madison.
That is a good festival. It's this big music and food festival that we have on the Capitol Square. It's literally all the way around the Capitol Square, and they have 4 different music stages, one on each corner, essentially. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of friends and people I know here in Madison. It's sort of central. So like if I have to fly to Los Angeles to start a gig with Stitched, I'm halfway
easy.
there already. So
I'm all hot on like New Zealand right now for some reason. We were in New Zealand and I just thought it was amazing. So I'm all into that, but I don't know if I'll move there. They made it hard to move there. You have to you have to be a citizen, I think. You have to be a citizen to buy property there.
one of my friends who's a sound engineer, he works with like Disturbed and Alice Cooper and a lot of really, A-level bands. He holds dual citizenship, New Zealand and United States, and
Lucky.
he can't go back to New Zealand and get any benefits or anything like that unless he lives there and works there for 5 years. So they really lock it down, even though he's a dual citizen, which is crazy.
So I was born in England. I thought the benefit was I could park my flag anywhere that the British once were, but none of that exists anymore. There, you don't get shit unless you bring money. You bring money, you get to stay.
Come on in.
Here. Yeah. Oh, hey.
I had a friend who went there to England a couple of years. This is actually a while ago now. She fell in love with this guy, another band member she had met here on tour in the States. And she flew over to England to spend some time with him. And she only got a one-way ticket over to the UK. And when she got there, they asked her, what are your plans to go back to America? And she's like, I'm just going to stay here for a little while and buy a ticket. And they're like, nope. They turned her right around and sent her right home. And then they banned her from the UK for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder we don't like the English.
Yeah.
Randy's probably on a list like that after our last tour. So.
Oh, Randy.
No, I didn't do anything wrong on the last tour.
I know.
I followed all the rules, most of them anyway.
The rules is like one rule. It's probably don't puke on stage, please. I mean, try not to. That's the rule. No, I don't like English now because the thing is like, can we interview then at 8 a.m. your time? And it's like, no, I don't want to talk to you that early. No, that's my issue. Things have switched. So, all right. So, Steve, how did you get into the industry?
Oh man, it's sort of a crazy story. So, I've been doing sound for about 30 years, which is unbelievable. And I always had dreams of touring and, living in a tour bus and seeing the world. And
now you want to go back.
Yeah.
I've seen things I never, ever wanted to see.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends if I have to go into the restroom after Randy or not. So then. No.
Understood.
Depends if he sees a squatty potty there still.
Yeah. Talk about that in a minute. So yeah, I'd always wanted to tour. Never really thought I'd ever have the opportunity to, living in Wisconsin, and then got wrapped up in a career. I've been a project manager for 20 plus years, and ended up meeting a guy at Guitar Center that I believe Randy is your friend, Jeremy. Yeah. Really awesome guy, outstanding guitar player, fantastic musician. And we just sort of hit it off, and I would help him out with local gigs and vice versa. And he ended up moving back to Los Angeles, got reunited with Randy, and got hired on for a tour with Stitched Up Heart. And one night I happened to be at my job, my normal professional job.
Is the guitar tech?
He was a second guitarist for Stitched Up Heart.
Cool.
So they hired Jeremy to tour with them.
Okay.
He calls me one night in the middle of the night. It was like early April, late March, early April. My phone rings at 3 a.m. It's a Sunday morning. I'm at work, and it says, Jeremy. So I figure something really awful has happened, because why would he call me that late? And he calls me and he's asking for help with an in-ear monitor system for a band he's working with. He can't tell me who, can't tell me where they're going or what they're doing, but he starts, asking for help.
So he went on tour with that big band and you got stuck with Randy.
No, he went on tour with Randy. He starts reading off these names and he's like, all right, well, channel 1 is Mixie, channel 2 is Decker. And I'm like, God, this sounds like Stitched Up Heart, because I knew the band.
Oh,
but I didn't say anything. And so he thanks me, hangs up. And then like a week later, he calls me and he says, hey, you helped us out. We're on tour with Godsmack. We're opening on their arena tour with Volbeat. And you helped out with our in-ear mixes, and I'd like you to come meet the band. So I went to the show, watched the opening set. Band was great, but the sound was awful because they didn't have a sound guy.
Okay.
And I was sitting at front of house, and I literally watched the stagehand come up and unmute all of the inputs band played. And then when they were done, he muted them and walked away. And I couldn't believe it. Here's this band playing at the Fiserv Arena, Milwaukee, 18,000 people sold out, and there's no sound
Well,
guy.
it's expensive to carry all these guys on tour. So
yeah. So I went back, met the band. Nixie asked me how it sounded, and I was like, you guys were good. And then I talked to Jeremy and said, hey, if you guys ever need sound, give me a shout. And so later that summer, I did like 7 or 8 audition type shows with the band, like around the Midwest. And then from there on, I was in the band, working with the band, touring. And then I decided to quit my full-time job as a project manager in March of 2020.
Oh crap.
Because we were going
there, yeah.
2020 was going to be, Sebastian Bach and then all these Danny Wimmer festivals throughout the summer, doing shows with like Metallica on their festival runs and stuff, and just like crazy big stuff.
Great.
I was like, oh, this is greatest. And then about a week later, I was wishing I hadn't quit my job.
Well, you'll pick up now. You guys are going to be really busy, I'm sure. So I hope, actually, but I'm sure too. So that's a good story. That's pretty nutty, man. The guy from Guitar Center. How cool is that? And then
he's great. He's a great guy. Jeremy Kohnman, fantastic guitarist, great technician, just a good all around guy. So I owe him a lot.
And you pulled him into the band originally, Randy, or you guys came on the same time just randomly, or?
No, I knew Jeremy since like, I think I first met him in like 2006 or something like that is when I first met him. I used to be like really active, and I used to like get hired as a session player at all these bands and go play gigs with them. And how I ended up meeting him was there was this one band here. I think the guy lived in Calabasas maybe or something like that. It was just some guy who had a band and he needed to hire musicians, and he hired me and he hired Jeremy, and that's how I ended up meeting him. If you saw the band though, it's like neither one of us really looked like we fit in it. We were like these goth looking kids, and Jeremy would show up with these big huge new rocks or whatever, and I had these really long blonde dreadlocks at the time, and he's playing kind of like Leonard Skinner type style music or whatever.
Yeah.
So we really didn't look like we fit in the band. But anyways, that's long story short. That's how I ended up meeting Jeremy.
Did you ever do session work at the Jungle Room?
No.
I worked there when I was a kid. They fired me for sleeping on the couch all day.
Oh.
It was a good gig. Oh, it's neat. All right. So let's see what else we got for you guys. Usually I have more questions, but today, because my computer was hacked, I've been on the damn computer all day. This fucker stole like all my shit last night. But you can get back into everything now, like pretty quickly. It wasn't that crazy. It just took time. He got nothing. So
that's
anyway.
good.
Yeah, it was good. It's just all day of like, I got 1,000 emails an hour. So yeah, until they're like locked up and anything. Anyway, I'm going to cut all that out, but that's why I'm kind of like,
before you go back to that, I used to work for a bank in Northwest Arkansas before like the big financial meltdown, and our bank, a couple of customers got hacked and their accounts got, pilfered. And so we opened a case with the FBI, and because it was less than $1 million per account that was stolen, they wouldn't even consider looking at it. They were like, we're so busy, we can't look at it unless it's over $1 million.
Dude, how
wow.
freaky is that, man?
Did insurance pay them back?
Yeah, FDIC covered it all.
Okay.
But yeah, it was.
See, I do my accounting every day, and that we all know something's weird. But that's the main reason why I log in every day, to make sure like that guy last night didn't get in. He tried, man. He was trying hard. He got my Facebook, Instagram, but I'm not that active on that stuff. So I was like, you got 20 people.
You could do, which what I've done for all my accounts, all my Facebook, Instagram, the two, I think it's F2A or 2FA codes, the Google authenticators. You could set those up. I don't know if you can set them up for your bank accounts. I do have them set up for all my cryptocurrency accounts, though. I have like a whole
That's
list
the most thing. So my mailman, they jacked his crypto, and there's nothing you can do. It's not insured. So he lost $4,000. There's nothing he can do about it.
How'd they jack it?
He couldn't, like, I was asking him, and he wasn't relaying it very well. I think he gave somebody the info on the phone. And then he was thinking it was like a assistance thing, and it wasn't an assistance thing. So I think he did something like that. Because now, I mean, honestly, I got a text message, and it was from City Visa saying, "Hey, your cards might have been compromised," and I ignored that, thinking that was spam. but it wasn't.
I know. I
So-
get so much junk mail. Like that a couple days, I went back and looked through some of the stuff. I was like, oh wait, that's a 1099K form that I
totally.
got.
So that's what I'm looking for right now too.
Probably need that.
Yeah. All right. So this one's actually that one. So I was trying to get so like Bertie Higgins, I'm gonna maybe get on here. Bertie Higgins did that song Key Largo,
Oh, Key Largo, Pontigo, baby, whatever.
Oh, that's the Beach
No,
Boys.
that's
Oh,
the
that's
Beach
the
Boys.
Beach Boys.
It's a Beach Boy. But he did this Key Largo song, and it was funny because my friend, I finally get his email, and I'm gonna say it wrong intentionally, but it was like Bertie Higgins at AOL. And I'm like, well, you're sitting there trying really hard for like really time to, like, I want Mick Jagger's information. It's like, fine, it's Mick Jagger at Yahoo. And how funny would it be if it was like that simple with all these guys? But it is true now. You can get a hold of almost anybody on these like Facebooks and everything, man. It's crazy who will write back to you like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? So
I got to interview Jay Leno back in like 03, 04. I worked for an automotive magazine, and we got to him by just sending an email to jay@nbc.com, and his assistant answered it. And it was like, wow, that was way too easy.
So I grew up with Jay because my dad was a car guy. And so I'll tell you when this one's good. So my old man, he's in the hospital, he's dying. And I that wasn't the good part, but he's in the
Sorry to
hospital.
hear.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time, but thank you. So he's in the hospital, he's dying, and I figure I call Jay. My dad was a car mechanic. So I figure I'll call Jay and I'll be like, hey, can you call? And I might make him feel good. And I thought maybe, like famous guy calling, the nurses would be like, wow, famous guy, famous guy. And so he calls through. He's like, yeah, I'd love to. So he calls through, and the nurses, they totally were, oh, wow. So we put him on the phone with my dad, and they're talking on the phone. And my dad's like, there's got to be something wrong with you. You think I'm going to fix your car? I'm in the hospital and I'm dying. He hangs up the fucking phone. So I go out, I'm looking like, oh my God. I quickly call Jay back, and I just hear him laughing his ass off because he's a comedian at the end of the day, and he was just laughing. He goes, man, I'm going to miss your old man, because he was on his way out. But he just couldn't like get the concept that he was just calling to see how he was doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my good Jay story. Jay's a good guy. He's an interesting cat. He's never sold a car in his life.
Yeah.
I've seen him driving around Burbank over the years a couple times here and there.
Stuff.
Yeah, all these, and every time he's in a different car, like what's some old like car from the 20s or 30s or something like that.
He had, so I was, growing up with a lot of cars. You're either super into cars or you don't really care. I'm not a huge car guy. So he had me when I was there, and we're talking little, I'm in junior high school, I think. And he had an old American car. I know my English cars because my dad was an English car mechanic, but I don't know my American at all. And he's like, come here, check this out. Come here. And I go sit in the car, and he pulled a thing, and there was a record player in the car. and he played Davy Crockett, man. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
how do you get that not to skip?
I wondered. I asked him, I think, and he just laughed, which means skips. Actually, you know what I think he told me is that it's actually pretty good, and it doesn't, I think.
Wow.
I don't know. It's been a hell of a lot of years.
You have to have a shock system for the turntables.
It's the update. I don't know. He's got some good stuff. He's a cool cat. Anyway, anybody's listening to this, they're going to be like, I thought this was a music podcast. We're all bored of music. I don't know.
He took me through Mulholland in his like 1918 Stanley steamer. It's a steam powered.
So when he got the Stanley, sorry.
Oh, is that the silver car? The long one with the really long nose?
It's all wood.
It's all wood, really long, got a big boiler in the front of it. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so old that the DMV didn't have it on the registration. Did he tell you this stuff?
I know. This was like 20 years ago.
That car was a bitch because there was no such car in their system anywhere. And so he had to jump through hoops to get it registered.
Wow. Yeah.
He's a character, man. I mean, he's got this crazy TV guy and these nut ass cars,
Yeah.
Fingers crossed you get to wherever you're trying to go. Maybe that's what we're all doing on the stage in music.
Right. Yeah, good point.
How many basses do you have, Randy?
With me in here, I think I got 1, 2, About 3 of them here, but down at the studio, about 10, I want to
Okay,
say,
yeah,
something like that. I have a bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah. See, basically,
I've been as my favorite. They're sitting around here somewhere. Yeah, there's one.
nice. Yeah, bass guys. Actually, I guess guitar buys are bad too. They get 100 guitars or whatever. How are you gonna do with them all? Like, I don't know.
I have so many at the studio. They're just they just sit up there. And Ibanez gives me a couple free ones every few years. And so
with Poison, when I toured with Poison, so CC will play. He would at the time he would play any guitar if you give it to him. So it's just like 1,000 guitars the guy had.
Yeah,
it was nuts. So
Yeah.
So what were you? So before your band now, before Stitched Up Heart, what were you doing? Was it just the session stuff? And this was your first?
No, there's been so many. Like I've been out here for so damn long in Hollywood now.
Was this your first nationwide tour when we went on tour the first time with these guys? Or
no, I've been across the U.S. quite a few times, and I've prior to this, I've been hired in bands to go and tour in. I've also been to South America. I've been to Europe a couple times, Russia. So it wasn't my first time going.
You do any Russian weddings?
I didn't do a Russian wedding.
Those they come up like so.
I did though. I did get to take the train once from Moscow to St. Petersburg.
Oh, that's cool.
It was like an overnight trip. We played in it was a band called London After Midnight that I was in at the time.
Great band.
And you've heard of them?
Well, I know the movie.
Oh,
so it's gotta be good. I wish the movie.
No, honestly, they actually have a huge following in the goth scene, especially over in Europe. And the further east we went, like the bigger the crowd seemed to get. But anyway, we played in Moscow, and then after the show, packed up, and then we went down to the train station. We jumped in this train, and it's like one of these really old trains that looks like it's from the 40s, maybe. Like, and it just had the same interior and everything, and it's like these bunks that kind of like fold down. And I remember we slept on the thing, and it was really uncomfortable, but I slept all the way to St. Petersburg.
It's a cool trip though.
It seemed like a coal, I thought it was like a coal engine or something like that. It was so old.
So how did you get the Stitched Up Heart gig in the beginning?
I was in that band London After Midnight for a long time, and I did quite a few tours with those guys. And then the singer though, he just didn't want to tour quite as much. And then I really wanted to go find another gig that was touring more. So I went back to like just putting what I used to do prior to that is like when I first came out here is I'd really like put myself out there. Like I created like a resume, send it to all his people. There's one guy named Barry Squire. I remember here. I don't know if you know who he is. He's the one who finds like all these bands. He's out here in LA, and he finds a bunch of musicians, puts musicians together with bands. Anybody from like Mariah Carey to like Marilyn Manson. He was one of the guys I would hit up a lot. And also musicconnection.com was another one, and all these other these publications, or Craigslist was another one. And actually that's where I found Stitched Up Heart was on Craigslist, but I just made it my job to find another band, and I would just relentlessly, I would like 4 hours a day.
What did the ad on Craigslist say?
I don't know, just looking for a bass player. We have a tour coming up, something like that. I mean, it was just a ton of them. I would just answer. I would just keep sending them my emails, and I guess I had emailed them about 4 or 5 times, but the pictures that I had sent over to them was it was too gothic looking, because that band London After Midnight was a gothic band. So I had all these goth photos or whatever, and they kept like just to respond. And I remember it was about a month into it, I was looking for another gig. And I remember thinking, I got up on Saturday morning and I was like, God, I was just getting frustrated. And I was like, I just got to go put myself out into the world and just leave my bedroom right now. And there's this one AA meeting that's not too far that I go to sometimes. And I walked in there and I sit down, just waiting for the meeting to start. And then I see this girl come in, this guy walking behind him. I kind of recognized, I knew him from like the clubs in Hollywood, but I hadn't seen him in so long. And they sit down, they're like, oh, hey, they start talking to me. I was like, oh, wait, now I remember them. It's Mixie and Merritt. And so I started chatting with them, and they're like, oh yeah, we just signed a deal with Century Media and we need a bass player.
You're so like, I submitted like a million times. It's me.
And And then, so anyways, that's how I ended up getting the gig with those guys pretty much.
And you've been with them since 2000. Was it
That was
12?
that was like March 2015, something like that. I think that was when it was.
So it's been a bit now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
How many tours have you guys done since then?
A bunch. In 2016, we did like 9 months straight in Decker's van. Yeah. If you've seen this van, it looks like it's just to be dropped, like driven off a cliff or something, taken out to the desert and just blown up. Yeah. If Decker sees this, I'm sorry, dude.
That's my baby.
He knows we all
know. But the crazy thing is, every time when a tour comes up and it's like we're figuring out the budget and transportation, he's like, every single time he's like, well, we have the van. The van's available. We're like, dude, Decker, if we take your van, the band's gonna break up. No, nobody wants to take your van.
We did use it last summer though, in 2021 for that 4 festival day run in Wisconsin and Michigan. Decker's the drummer from Stitched Up Heart, and he moved out to Pennsylvania to take care of his parents. They're older, and so he moved from California to Pennsylvania. And we had this 4-run show. It was like over the course of like 5 days, and it was a couple shows in Wisconsin, Rockfest, and a couple of other shows. And then we went up to Upheaval in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So he decided he was going to use his van and drive the van to Wisconsin. We rehearsed in Madison for a couple of days, and we drove to Rockfest. First show back from the pandemic. We had this amazing show. There was probably 10,000 people in the small stage area, just like shoulder to shoulder, nuts to butts. Like you couldn't even get through the crowd. It was just insane. So we get done with the show. Monster Energy, who the band's sponsored by, is there. The interview with them afterwards. Everything's just pumped up. Everything's great. So we head out of there, on cloud 9. Great show. Everybody loved it. Blah, blah, blah. We stopped for fuel, and our van, we took 2 vans. The van with me, Mixie, and Merritt leave. And then Decker and Randy and Decker's fiance are in Decker's van. And about 10 minutes later, we get a phone call from Randy, and he goes, hey, van broke down. And we're like, oh God, it's 3 a.m. We're trying to get to wherever the next show was. We had quite a drive ahead of us.
The van lost life.
Yeah. The van lost 100% of its antifreeze. It blew a hose. And so they pulled over on the side of the interstate, and the state patrol said, you've got to move this thing off the interstate. So they drove it like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 miles with 0 antifreeze in it, no coolant.
Oof.
It overheated so bad that it shut itself off. And so they got it started again somehow, met us at this next gas station, and the thing was just like rocket hot on fire. And I was a mechanic in a former life. And so I looked at it and I noticed that the heater line had blown on it. And I'm like, I don't know, man, like you probably blew a head gasket, blah, 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 other issues as a result. So we decided to stay in this like flea bag hotel in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin that night. We couldn't get a tow truck. We tried everything. Nobody would come pick it up because it's a van with a trailer and blah, blah, blah. The next morning I go to AutoZone and I get something to bypass the heater hose and make it work. So I fill it up with coolant. We start it. It runs perfectly. The thing will not die.
It made it to the next 3 shows. Like, wow.
Chevy?
Yeah. Ford E350. Yeah.
Oh, 350 is good. Yeah.
It's got like 380,000 miles.
Yeah,
on
it's. I don't even see how that thing is still going. Honestly.
Yeah.
But we spent. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
No, I was just going to say. So then he leaves to drive back to New Jersey at the end of the tour, and he parks in the same hotel that we had parked in 2 nights earlier on his way back to New Jersey. And he comes out the next morning and says, man, my car sounds like a Harley. It's just super, super loud. I can't figure out what's going on.
They stole the cat.
Somebody stole the cat over.
Somebody stole the catalytic converter, man.
The problem is if you're replacing the cat's worth more than the damn van.
Honestly, yeah. That with this particular situation, yeah, the catalytic converter is probably double the price of the van.
So he bought it though, didn't he?
he found a guy to replace the catalytic converter. It cost him like $200. I don't know.
Oh,
It
that's
was probably
good.
the guy that stole it
Yeah.
from him, probably for that price.
Maybe.
But now he gets better gas mileage and it runs better than it ever did before.
So the truck's worth at least 400 now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That thing's been to Burning Man and Badlands, and like nobody will sit in it because it's unbelievably, it's got 15 years of touring grime in it. So
Man,
Lovely.
in 2016, we toured so much in that thing. And I remember I think we left in, I want to say around April or something like that. And around like, I want to say July, August, we had crossed the country. I remember at one point I realized like 5 times from one coast to the other in that van. I was like, holy shit, man.
That's tough. And there's how many people are the 4 people?
At that point, there was 5 band members and 1 sound girl. I mean merch girl. Sorry, Amanda Jean was the merch girl at that time, and we had Nick, who's now playing with Otherwise, was our guitar player at that point.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough. See, that's the stuff you don't hear about is the tough times in the van. I never did a van tour.
You're not missing much. Just so
No,
you know.
I'm cool. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Actually, that was the first band that I ever toured, because most of the bands I was in either did buses or RVs, and that was the first van tour that I had ever gone in at that point. But I remember there was a problem with the van, and the heater in the back was stuck on. It constantly just kicked out heat. You couldn't shut it off, and
Get better gas mileage.
And the air conditioner did not work in this thing. And I remember around like June, it's just getting freaking so hot. I could just feel the heat. It was heating everything up. And so we'd have a day off and we would take it to a mechanic and see if they could fix the air conditioner or turn off the heat or whatever. And we got to one place and the guy's like, oh yeah, you got to get this part, but I'm not going to have enough time because it takes a day to order the part. And then, I need a day to fix it or whatever. And then we have a show, and we kept going from place to place when we'd have a day off, and we couldn't find anybody to fix the van. And then we got to Grand Junction, Colorado, and they knew this one guy out there, a dude named Eric. And Eric had a couple friends that were mechanics, and they show up. They're like, "Yeah, we'll fix your air conditioner for you." And when I saw these 2 guys, they're high as hell. I don't know what they're on, but they're on something. And I remember thinking, like, dude, there's no way these guys are going to fix this damn thing, but let's just enjoy the night here in this hotel, and we'll grab the van in the morning and we'll leave. Sure enough, first thing in the morning, they're back with the van. They spent the whole night awake and everything. They had to rip out the seats and all this stuff. But the next morning, the air conditioner worked. Out of all these other professional mechanics and all this stuff in these stations that we had stopped at, these 2 guys who knows what they were on, they got it fixed.
We have bad luck with vehicles. If you'll indulge another story. So we were on tour with Steel Panther.
I just think it's funny. We talk about Jay Leno's amazing cars and then just flipped right into the shittiest van ever on tour. Anyway, sorry.
Well, we are in an RV now, which is
moving on up.
Yeah. So speaking
Actually,
of RVs,
it is, isn't it?
It's quite nice compared to that van. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. You can at least lay down.
So we're on tour with Steel Panther, and it's a U.S. Canada tour, and it's in late 2019. It's like October, November, December tour, and so as you can imagine, like everything in northeastern United States and Canada, everything's frozen. So we've got this RV, a Class A motorhome, and we're crisscrossing over the Canadian border and U.S. border, and our Blackwater tank is getting really full, and we can't find any place to empty it because every stop is closed because the ground's frozen, the lines are frozen. They're not gonna. It's literally like middle of December. So we're coming into Canada, and it's the middle of the night, and our tank in the Blackwater is so full that every time we stop the RV, pee splashes out of the toilet.
Yeah, there's like, it's like this far from the rim of the toilet bowl.
Yeah,
it's splashing piss all over the floors.
Every time we take a corner, pee would splash out. Every time we accelerated, pee would splash out. Anytime we moved, pee would be splashing out of the RV in the toilet in the bathroom. And so we get to Canada, and it's
Did
like
you guys have towels on the floor around the toilet always?
Merritt's backpack. So
I was gonna say Merritt's backpack got soaked with everyone's pee.
he had to buy two backpacks.
I think what you're doing is giving yourself job security, guys, because I don't think anyone's going to want to tour with you guys.
If they're smart, no.
Anyway, all right.
So our bus driver is a guy by the name of Alan, and he's Scottish. He's born in Scotland, so he has a real thick Scottish accent, but he's U.S. citizen. He lives in U.S. now, and at the time he lived in Boise, Idaho. So as you know, when you come up on a border crossing, the border guards don't want to have to wait for anything. They don't want, to deal with any like hemming and hawing. So you're supposed to have your passports out in a vehicle with multiple people. Well, for whatever reason, we didn't get our passports to Alan. It's 4 a.m. So he pulls up to the border shack, and Canadian guard, says, passports.
Just a lonely Scotsman from Boise, Idaho.
Yeah. So he says, oh, I don't have the band's passports. We're a rock band, blah, blah, blah. I can't do a Scottish accent. But the guy goes, well, where are you from? And he goes, well, I'm from Boise, Idaho. And the guard is just like, yeah, whatever, pal, pull over up there. We're going to go through your vehicle. So we pull off, we go into the office. They're giving everybody a hard time, like asking a million questions. It's like 5 a.m. now, and they're angry that we had to stop, and they're going to have to search the RV. So we go through all of this stuff, and then one of the guys comes over and says, who has the keys for the motorhome? And Alan goes, oh, I've got the keys, but I best be warning you, it smells like righteous piss in there. And the guy just looks at him. He's like, we've seen it all, pal. Like, don't worry about it. So you see him and this other guy trot out to the motorhome, and it's middle of December. We had the heater cranking in there, so it just reeks. We can't open the windows. So you see them open up the door, and they put on their gloves and they pull the door open, and the guy takes one step onto the RV, and he stops, and he turns around and he closes the door, and he gives us the keys and goes, you guys are free to go.
Oh, dude, it's like Strange Brew or something.
So now it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and we have to do something about this Blackwater tank, because it is just like, it's miserable. So we start calling like RV sales places that sell RVs, because they have to have facilities. And we find this one place that's like 65 miles out of the way from where we're going each way. But I call them, they're open. I ask the lady, she's Canadian, hey, do you have a working dump station? And she says, oh, yeah, we do. And I go, great, we will be there in about 90 minutes. And she's like, oh, okay, I got to tell you, it's $12. I'm like, it could be $1,200. I don't care. Like, we've got to dump this thing.
I mean, I know I'm sure it's illegal and everything, but you didn't think about just dumping it on the side of the road in the middle of
it's not as easy, I guess, as it. Well, I guess you can, but I remember there was an old RV that I actually personally owned years ago, and we would do commando dumps in like the alleyway. It was like a 1981 before they put all these restrictions or all these things on it, whatever. But usually, yeah, we didn't dump in the middle of I haven't done in years, but one of the things we would do though is we would find the KOAs, and we've done this quite a few times where we'll go there and we'll show up at like midnight or like 1 a.m. and we'll drive through looking for the campsites that have the drains. And then when you find them, you just pull it up and you just drop it really quick and just empty it in there and throw it back in and just leave.
Yeah, we didn't want to be known as the Dave Matthews to the tour world, and like.
So with Steve, are you going out with Gemini Syndrome?
Yeah, I leave Friday.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cool,
got picked
man.
up as their tour manager, front of house engineer. So.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
And you've toured with them before?
This is my first time.
Oh,
cool. I toured with them actually in 2016. That was like one of the tours that we had actually did, was that we went out with Gemini Syndrome.
You should have fun. I don't know, actually probably going to work your ass off, but
yeah,
it'd be nice to be working. So
Brian's a really, really good friend of mine.
Yeah, they're fantastic. We've done a bunch of Zoom calls, and I've done the preliminary routing and finding out what everybody likes. Like Stitched Up Heart loves Planet Fitness. Like every single stop that we make in between venues is Planet Fitness. Gemini likes Walmart supercenters, so took some adjusting when I was routing. I'm not searching for Planet Fitnesses anymore, looking for Walmarts and whatnot. And then, yeah, but they're really cool. I'm super excited about it. I get to drive the bandwagon from Indiana out to Las Vegas, so that'll be an adventure. But it'll go
But
okay.
good for
Wait, is the whole crew? Is Alan's going? Is Natalia going too?
Yeah. Yep. They picked up.
Wow. Okay.
Sorry, Joel.
No,
So
no.
Alan, our driver from Scotland, is going to be driving Gemini Syndrome. He's driven them a bunch of times. And then we had this merch girl, Natalia. She's amazing. Holy cats. What an animal of a merch person. But she was out with us on the Butcher Babies tour. So I recommended her for this tour with Gemini. And we also got Stefan from Butcher Babies, the guitar tech. He's going to be going out with Gemini too. So
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
yeah.
awesome.
Yep. So a bunch of new faces and a bunch of old faces, but
Yeah.
it'll be a good time.
It's just good to be working.
Yeah.
Really. All right. So when I first was going to put this together, I was at my friend's house. Most of my friends have little kids now. And so I was going to make a joke. I'm like the only one, but I don't know. So they're in 5th grade, and they said, I need to ask every guest when you first felt famous. So my question to you guys is, when did you first feel famous? As fame is not a road you choose to go down. When was there a moment in your careers that you would say was a pivotal moment or a meaningful moment or a moment in time you'd like to share? What would each of you guys choose?
Well, I've never really felt famous. I never have ever felt that feeling like I've achieved this level of fame that that I'm striving to hit. Like Tom Hanks is famous, you know.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes, he's famous. I think of myself as a guy who plays bass in a band right now. You know, there's a possibility that I might get famous one of these days. And I've definitely had a lot of highlights in my career. You know, one of the best ones I would say, I remember one of the very first big thing that I ever got to do outside of the clubs in Los Angeles. I got hired as the bass player for D.H. Peligro. He was a drummer. He was in the Chili Peppers at one point, right before Chad Smith, and he's a drummer for the Dead Kennedys. And when I used to submit for all these bands, it was one of the gigs that I had landed, and I landed this one, and he was. I went did the audition, and I didn't hear back from him. And I remember a couple months later, you know, I was like, didn't really think much of it. It's like, oh, probably didn't get it or whatever. And a few months go by, my phone rings. I was like, oh, it's DH. Hey, what's up, man? He goes, hey, dude, I'm getting ready to go do a tour down to South America. Do you want to come? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to come. And it ended up being, it was like, we did MTV Brazil down there. It was like, I think it was called Gordo a Go-Go was the name of the show. And then we did this festival, I think it was called Poro del Rock. And it was like 35,000 people. And he was like one of the co-headlining bands on the festival. And when I remember I was up there, that was like one of the best moments in my career, I would say.
Yeah.
But there's also been some other freaking amazing shows I've got to do as well. Like the one I mentioned earlier, that one Taste of Madison. That
Okay.
if you see the pictures from that, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's like you get to play in the stage, and then you see the rows of buildings on each side, and there's like just a sea of people, and right behind it is the Capitol building, and it just looks freaking epic.
Yeah, that's cool.
My goal is to never be famous. I always tell the band, I never want to see people's faces at a show, because it means they're turned around looking at me because something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But I will say the Stitched Up Heart family is amazing. When we do meet and greets, especially after the pandemic, you know, like just the enthusiasm and the support that they all give everybody in the band, including me, like, is crazy. You know, like, I do this thing on Facebook when we go on tour. I sort of document the tour and, you know, keep a running log. Like today we drove 538 miles from X to Y, and we spent this much on fuel, and we stopped this many times. And here's sort of a summary of the day, and here's some behind the scenes stuff. And just to have lots of the Stitched Up Heart fans actually reading that stuff and then, you know, thanking me for it, it blows my mind that anybody cares about it, but it's pretty cool. So Yeah, my goal is to be the person behind the curtain that nobody really recognizes ever. And then I sort of want to be like, what's his name from Whitesnake? Doug.
I thought you were going to say the Wizard of Oz.
Oh no!
But in the great words of Whitesnake,
yeah.
Now, who from Whitesnake?
Doug Aldrich, I think his name is. He's the rhythm guitar or second guitar player, if I'm remembering correctly. But he's in Whitesnake. But I doubt anybody other than diehard Whitesnake fans would recognize him at a gas station or grocery store. So he's got the best of all worlds, and I feel like that was Stitched Up Heart because I get to live a touring lifestyle, but I'm still just a normal guy. Like I don't have to worry about, we go into Walmart and everybody looks at the band and I'm just the guy, sort of trailing behind them. So it's sort of nice. Yeah.
I always I love when I see those, when I wake up in the morning and check my Facebook on tour. I always really enjoy seeing those pictures that you post from like the night before or 2 days ago or whatever. You see the story and this is a paragraph of how everything was and his input on how the PA and how the club was.
I'm usually complaining. I will say, man, the UK club scene, their PAs, not to go all gear geeky on everybody, but UK knows how to do it. Like even the like worst club that we were in the UK, the PAs were so good compared to what's in the United States. Like I'm not going to tell the story about Simon and his
No, go ahead. No, tell it, because I was thinking about that just now. I'm not going to say it. Go ahead.
So Infected Rain, we were on tour with them and they're from Moldova, which was a former area of the USSR. And their sound guy is from Bulgaria and his name is Simeon and he's a brilliant sound guy. Like I was embarrassed to mix before him each night. He was just amazing. But when he would be in there, like tuning the PA during the day and like the venue people are all there, all of the venue staff and like the house sound guy and the promoter. And he'd have his, microphone and he'd be going like, check 1, 2, fuck in this really heavy, like Bulgarian accent. He's like, this PA is fucking dog shit. How the fuck am I going to do a show on this thing? And meanwhile, the whole staff and everybody's just sitting there and I'm like, oh God, I've got to go talk to these people in a minute. And he'd go on these rants on microphone for like 5 minutes at a time, just about how crappy the PAs were.
Yeah.
What about the one time when you guys were having the conversation in front of the house guy or whatever? There was that one. It's like, I like to turn the PAs. Go ahead.
So he talks a little bit like Borat. So you've got to envision all this in like a Borat style delivery, but he started giving all of us lessons about how to do things on tour. And he was doing it, in fun, but it was just hilarious. So he comes up to Decker, our drummer, and we're doing a line check and he goes to Decker. He goes, hey, what do you know about the drums? And Decker's like, I'm always open to learn something new. And, they're just sort of razzing off of one another. And then Simeon goes, okay, well, I'll give you one lesson today. Did you know sometimes you can play the kick with your heel down or with your heel up? And Decker's like, wow, that's crazy. Really? And he's like, yeah, tomorrow I give you another lesson. So then, he starts doing this to everybody. And eventually he comes back to me at front of house and, I'm starting to set up my board and get everything going. And the house sound guy is standing there and we're talking about patching into the system. And Simeon comes up and he goes, hey, are you ready for your sound lesson today? And I go, oh yeah, absolutely. And he goes, great. Do you know what the gain knob does? And I go, no, I've never even used it. And he goes, okay, well, what you do is you turn it up until it starts to squeal and then you turn it down just a little bit. And I go, wow. And he goes, and tomorrow I teach you about the equalizer. And I'm like, does it add and subtract? And he's like, yes, but only in increments of 31. And I'm like, and I look over and the house guy just has this like blank look on his face. Like he thought we were dead serious. And then he walks away and the house guy goes, is this like your first gig? I had to, yeah. The first one didn't go so well. I destroyed the PA. So I'm hoping today goes better.
Did you guys have any windups or stories of messing around with the other bands on the tours?
Oh, yeah. Well, for the Butcher Babies Infected Rain, that was a pretty fun one. So, of course, while we were playing, they all came out and started disassembling the stage, pretty standard stuff. Then for Infected Rain, we had a slumber party on stage. So everybody in all of the other bands went and got their pillows and blankets and pajamas and stuff. And while Infected Rain was playing their last song, which just slams, we all walked out and went to sleep on the stage. And then for Butcher's last song, we came and set up card tables and served drinks and played poker and smoked cigars and stuff like that on stage. And of course, they all joined us. But nobody in Stitched Apart, myself included, we're all sober. We don't drink or do any drugs or anything like that. So it was a lot of Heineken Zero for us. But yeah.
And you like that stuff?
I never did, but I quit drinking a couple of years ago or about a year ago, sorry. And now the NA beers, I like them better than regular beers for some reason.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's funny, party like a rock star. And almost all the people who come on here are sober.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you can't keep going if you're still years into it, partying like you're in your, 20s.
It's hard.
Runs down after a while. Yeah.
My friends.
Yeah, I can't sleep good. That's my big issue. That's why I don't like to drink as much as I used to, because I'm a mess at night. It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friends, when they found out I was quitting my job as a project manager, wearing shirt and tie to work all day and then going to live on a tour bus, the first thing they asked when they came and saw me at one of our shows was Steel Panther, one of the bigger venues, and they're like, so how awesome is it? Like, are you just like partying all the time? And I'm like, yeah, we go to Planet Fitness every morning. We all work out, we take showers, we get massages, and then we drink NA beer and eat fruit platters. So partying.
Woo!
Yeah. They're like, you're lame. I'm like, I know.
I know. Yeah.
If you go backstage at one of our shows, it's just a bunch of people like this. How long till we go on? Okay.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it too. I messed around with my phone. What are you looking at? I don't even. Actually, you're right. I honestly, I don't know. So I got to try and stop that. That to me is bad. So my girlfriend took Facebook and everything off her phone because of it. So I don't know.
I wish I could.
Yeah, well, I got cut.
I took, after I saw that movie Social Dilemma, or that documentary. Did you guys see that?
It's good.
I saw it and I took it off my phone for about a week and then eventually added it back on again. Yeah.
I used to use it for stuff. I'm a landlord and I find a lot of tenants on Facebook Marketplace is great for that. I'm a memorabilia dealer. I've bought quite a bit of memorabilia off Facebook. So certain things, but most of the time it's like, what are you looking at? Oh, absolutely nothing. You're totally right.
Yeah.
So that's the other side. So
I find when I'm on tour and there's nothing to do for hours and hours and you're driving, I'll sit there for forever looking on Facebook or whatever. But when I get home, I don't really check it nearly as much.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
How did you find touring back in 2004? Was your last tour, you said, Joel?
The last tour for me was the Cranberries in like 2004, I think. And I was lonely. I didn't want to do it anymore. I just, I started touring when I was 22 years old. I went out with STP first and it was awesome. It's a great way to grow up. I was seeing the world on their dime. STP was very, very good. So I got to see some amazing music and we did a lot of radio shows. So I saw a lot of cool bands. This is fun, man, for a kid. This is great stuff. This is amazing. But I was lonely, and I didn't want to be an old bitter roadie, a guy who has kids but never sees them. What's the point? And I didn't want to be some old sober boring guy who I do drink, but not like a crazy amount like I used to. For me now, I'll be at a friend's house and be like, I'm going home, dude. It's 9:00. They could be like, well, we're gonna have the Swedish bikini team in the jacuzzi soon. I'll be like, I don't give a shit. I'm going home. So things have changed a bit. But yeah, I was lonely. That was it. It doesn't sound as cool, but you guys would get it. It's hard, it's tough.
Yeah, I would think it'd be really hard without like social media and without FaceTime. I mean, we had cell phones in 2004, but they were flip phones, and
Yeah, I had
maybe you
like
had
the
Snake on your
brick-looking
phone.
thing, which was
Yeah.
really cool to have, because then I could have phone calls with my mom, not in the production office where everybody would make fun of you. So I
Yeah.
got that's why I got a laptop when I was on tour. And when we first went home, I used my per diem. I bought a laptop, and the internet was in its infancy. So I would get into like AOL chat rooms and do what you're saying, like, hey, I'm on tour with STP right now. What kind of questions do you guys have? And they'd be like, yeah, right. Like, no, for real. But you're just trying to talk. I don't know. I was thinking, what am I going to do with this thing? I spent all my money on it, and I started keeping a journal. And so the journal is what I translated into my book at the end. But it's that part's fun. I liked it. It's good. There's a lot of great things about the road, and then but it's tough gig, and people, I think people know that in general. And then, dumb roadies, we're not all stupid. And in fact, most of now, a lot of these guys coming on, they're very highly educated, actually. So it is a transition, but not all things are learned in school is the other side, so.
I was roommates with Anthony, or Trouble, that was his name, from Crazy Town, if you remember that band, Crazy Town.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that when they would go out and tour, every person who worked for him, they all owned houses except for the bands. The bands were all broke.
I believe it, man. I believe it.
He would tell me, man, I would get home from tour from Europe, and I'd show up at LAX with like everything I own in a backpack, and have to find somebody to pick them up at the airport and a place to spend the night.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you could live out of public storage locker if you're on the road enough. You save up a lot of money, man. And I mean,
actually, I did that in 2016. I had a house that I was renting out in the Hollywood Hills, and I knew I was going to be gone for quite a while with Stitched Up Heart, and I wasn't going to make any money. So I gave up the house. I took everything I had. I put it into $150 a month storage space, and saved a hell of a lot of money that year.
Totally can. It's just tough when you go back. Hey, can I crash on your couch, man? So. But hey, you got to, especially now, prices of houses are so friggin' insane.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, you got to jump through hoops to try and get going if you can. It's tough. It's crazy. So we'll see what comes next. I don't know. Yeah. Are you guys going out on the road soon, or have you guys announced any stuff? Or
no, just working on the next album right now at the moment. That's it. Yeah,
cool.
that's the plan.
Yeah, I think Mixie, when does she's going to Nashville. The producer that Stitched Up Heart works with is in Nashville. And
yeah, Mitch,
yeah, she's going out next week or something like that,
I
for
think
a month or so.
Yeah, I think the beginning of March or something like that. And I think me and Merritt are going to go out there at the end of March. That's the plan. For
anybody who's a Stitched Up Heart fan that's listening, the couple of demos I've heard are awesome. Like, they're really good. So it's gonna be fun to mix those when the album releases and they go out again.
I love your genuine enthusiasm.
Oh, I'm living the dream, man. Like,
you can tell you're like so happy with everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, I know, like, I'm super lucky. So when I was making the decision to quit my job, like, I was making really, really, really good money as a project manager, and then I was gonna go live on a tour bus and make not really good money. And it was
a bunch of piss and everything.
Ruining backpacks and fighting with border guards. But I had to convince my girlfriend, that this was something that wasn't just, any Joe could go do it or whatever. And
she left you.
No, she's still here. I don't even know why. But I ended up looking up some statistics, and at one point, I can't remember, this was like 2019, there were more active NFL players than there were active touring sound guys in the United States. So I found that stat on the Department of Bureau.
I was gonna say, where the heck did you find that?
Yeah, the Department of Labor and Bureau of Labor and whatever.
You do dig deep. My God. Okay.
I like to research. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like 1,700 NFL players, and there were like 900 touring sound engineers that, listed that as their primary source of income.
And they're the first to get fired. So
yeah, screw up once and you're usually on a bus. So
yeah,
luckily Stitched hasn't done that to me yet. So
wait till we're
Randy's
done.
like soon.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they seem to like you.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, we won't go and do a tour without Steve anymore.
There you go.
Not true. Not
Written
true.
in stone. Well, guys, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I don't know if you have any other great stories that you've missed out on. Tell them otherwise next time you come on.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I've really enjoyed doing this. It's my first podcast I've been offered.
Oh, really?
Yep. Hope I did okay. Did I
Me
pass
too.
the test?
I don't know. I don't know. Every one of these, I'm like, I have no idea. What'd you talk about? I don't fucking know. So, how unimportant school is. They're like, why do you keep talking about that? I was like, because I'm not very educated. Anyway. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys both soon. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe by clicking the round button on the bottom right. To learn more about me or the guests on the show, go to joelrody.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. The handle's Joel Rody. And don't forget, when you party like a rock star, don't be a dick.